Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Running an Efficient Law Firm, presented by Stacey E. Burke. My name is Stephanie Phelan. I'm a marketing manager at MyCase, and I will be your host today. First, I'd like to give you a few tips about participating on GoToWebinar. The webinar control panel is on the right-hand side of your screen. This is where you can control audio, chat with me, and submit questions. Please use the questions pane to submit your questions at any time during the webinar. I'll be collecting those questions and saving them to ask Stacey at the end of her presentation, but please don't wait until the very end to shoot those over to me. Also note that these slides and the recording will be available by end of day tomorrow on the MyCase blog, and it will also be emailed to all registrants. When you close your webinar today, a very quick 5-question survey will pop up. All you have to do is answer those questions and you will be entered to win an Apple TV. That's new for our webinars. You have a great chance of winning, so it is definitely worth it. If you'd like to join the conversation on Twitter, the hashtag to use is #EfficientLawFirm. This webinar has been approved by the Wyoming State Bar and the Florida Bar for 1 hour of general CLE credit, which includes 1 hour of general CLE credit. If you are a Florida Bar member, note course number 2391R to self-report your CLE. I will also send this information out in the GoToWebinar chat pane. Today's webinar is hosted by MyCase, so before we jump into things, I'd like to give you a quick overview. MyCase is a web-based law practice management software that takes care of your daily practice requirements for calendaring, contact management, document management and templates, time and billing, client communications, custom workflows, and more in one solution at an affordable price. MyCase is priced for solo and small firms at just $39 a month per attorney and $29 a month per paralegal or support staff. We also offer MyCase websites for our customers. The cost to set up and build your website is only $500, and then there's a $50 per month maintenance fee. If you've looked into building a custom website, you'll know this is a super deal. We use a modern professional design built for your firm. The websites contain social media and blog integration, and best of all, a client portal which is completely integrated with your MyCase software. So now you and your customers can log into MyCase directly through your website. Next up is payments. Are you accepting payments from clients online yet? You really should be, and it's easier than ever. MyCase recently announced the addition of a built-in credit card payments feature to our payment service. MyCase customers can now accept online payments from clients using both credit cards and checking accounts, also known as e-check or ACH payments, seamlessly through their MyCase account, and no third-party integration is required. Last but not least, we enjoy hosting educational events for professionals in the legal industry, and that is why we are all here today. So let me tell you a little bit about our presenter. Stacey Burke is a 4th-generation Houstonian. She was raised as part of a family business and learned the value of entrepreneurship from her father, who grew a small business into an international distribution powerhouse. Stacey is a single mom of 2 daughters and the loving owner of her French bulldog, Ruby. She attended the University of Houston Law Center and has been a personal injury trial lawyer for 15 years. In 2010, Stacey became an entrepreneur herself when she launched Stacey E. Burke PC, a business consulting service for law firms and legal industry veterans. Stacey and her team act as outsourced marketing coordinators for small to medium-sized law firms and legal industry vendors. We are so lucky to have her on this webinar today. Thank you, Stacey. I am going to let you take it from here.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Great. So today we're going to talk about business efficiency and how to build your best law firm. In my business, not only do I do a lot of marketing and business development work with attorneys and vendors that support the legal industry, but I also do some infrastructure work that involves auditing small to medium-sized law firms. The firms I've worked with have been all over the country and handle cases including class actions, probate, bankruptcy, personal injury, workers' comp, mass torts, and more. The assessments that I do are generally a three-part assessment that includes an analysis of the corporate culture, the history and where it is at present, the infrastructure of the law firm, both staffing and technology, and marketing. So when you are building your best law firm, these are a few of the steps that you can take. The act of getting a business system written down is referred to as systemization. I like to take that one step further, and so I systemize the process in hard copy format and then program it into software, automate as many components as I can, and include it into the case management software. So you will have sort of the need to define your goals, right? So what will be the goals of each system that you create, and then you determine the actions that you'll need to take in order to accomplish those goals. Those actions will be formalized into a procedure, and this goes for each different system within your firm. So there are a lot of different systems that you can systemize. Once you have those processes formalized, you can then train your employees, everyone at your law firm, and make the materials that you use for training accessible on an ongoing basis. And then you'll need to probably continue to assess the materials and the training that you provide on an ongoing basis, because as you implement these systems in a formalized way, different issues will come up as you use the systems more and more. Your firm will continue to evolve. And I would say the more systemized you can get your firm, especially the repetitive tasks that are done on an ongoing basis, the greater your opportunity to do business development and to spend money on marketing, because your firm will be capable of being scaled larger. So all systems go. How do we systemize our law firm? One of the most important factors is that you want to make sure the hardware and the software that your law firm is using is consistent across everyone in your business, as consistent as possible. I know that's not always possible, but as much as possible, including the phone system that you use, the answering service that you use, the hardware, the types of computers that people in your office use, the software, what version of software you have running on each machine, the servers and the backups, documents and how you scan them and how you name them and file them in your filing, how people access information remotely, and of course your finances. So you will create processes for handling repetitive tasks and functions. This basically allows you to somewhat automate the more tedious tasks in your business. You only have to set it out one time as a lawyer or a firm administrator, exactly how you want a particular process to take place on a step-by-step basis, and then integrate it into how the business is run. Then you will have greater consistency in work product, which makes both the employees happy because everyone wants to do a good job. They know what their expectations are when they have the process laid out in front of them, as well as provides better service to your clients because they're getting a consistent end product. It makes your business quicker, more efficient, more reliable, and hopefully will save you overall time and money. My favorite example of this is case-related document generation. The first time I did this was with the first law firm that I worked for in-house, and we took 330 forms and converted them into coded documents to use with our case management software. And while assembling all the documents and getting all of the attorneys to sign off on each one, because everybody had their own forms at that time, was an arduous process, once we got it done, we were able to scale the sort of smaller automotive motor vehicle accident practice from 100 to 350 with only adding one more staff person. And that's a really big deal with just one attorney overseeing a group of paralegals. And so it really did help the business scale up and make more money. And you just have to make sure you document these processes in a meaningful way. So one, which is my favorite example of an internal process that you can systemize very easily, is intake. I have created and implemented intake departments at 2 different law firms where I worked in-house, and then for several law firms that I've consulted for. So this is sort of my favorite system that one could develop. a lot of times attorneys will decide to undertake a new marketing expenditure like local television, and they don't realize until they're a week in that what they should have done is set up their internal systems to be better able to support the increased intake that comes with all of these new leads. And by the time they realize it, they've already lost money, because they're not nurturing all of the leads that have come in. They don't have standardized forms. They don't have, pre-programmed qualification questions. And so I always encourage firms to be proactive. In addition to making the most out of the leads that you get and increasing your return on investment, that way you can also use the data that you're putting into the system to further report to your vendors. So if you have hired a company out of house to run a paid search advertising campaign for you, for example, if you can report back to them which of the leads were the highest quality and that you wound up signing and what your sort of projected revenue will be and turnaround time for the case, they can further optimize your campaign even better. The more information you can give back to them, the more money your campaigns are going to wind up making for you. So what do we need for intake? And I'm sure most of you know, you need people, right, in your firm and occasionally out of house if you used a call center, an answering service as a call center, or some external consultants that help you with your process, nurse consultants and the like. So you have people, you have the software that you're going to use to contain all of this data and to hopefully automate the system, the hardware with which you'll be able to use the software, and then the transmission methods that you're going to use in order to send to the lead any paperwork that you need them to complete or a list of items that you want them to provide. So that could either be DocuSign, EchoSign, FedEx, regular mail, however you decide to transmit data back and forth, email. The procedures that are components of new case intake include lead tracking. So what are your lead sources and how are you tracking them? Have you published an ad in a legal industry periodical? Do you have, SEO work being done? Do you have a billboard? All of those things are referral sources, and you want to track the source of each and every lead that comes into your business, whether you accept it or reject it, so that you have all of that data in a system so you can pull out reporting really easily. You want to make sure that the entry of those leads, in addition to including a referral source, are also entered in a consistent basis such that nothing gets missed when you run reports. How will you do lead qualification? How do you determine if the caller meets your firm's requirements in order to become a client? So best case scenario is that you sit down with both the people who are going to do intake and the attorneys that are going to handle the cases, and you come up with what's essentially a decision tree of 1 to 10 questions. If the answer to 1 is yes, then you move to number 2. If the answer to number 2 is no, then you move to number 3. The more simple that you can boil down those qualification questions for your staff, the better quality of leads and cases that are going to be coming in the door, and the less questions they're going to have to ask an attorney. Once you have a caller or email lead come in, they're what I call a PNC, a potential new client, and until you reach them and are able to qualify or reject them, you will be nurturing them as a lead. So that's a lead nurturing, PNC nurturing. In addition, once you've sent them a contract, they become what I call an intake, because they have your contract for employment and they can sign it, so they can become a client kind of at their leisure, unless you send them a letter letting them know that's not the case anymore. You can automate these sequences to send emails, to send letters. You can have basically your entire nurturing sequence automated once you come up with what you think is the most effective. And I have recommendations for that coming up on my next slide. Lead conversion, so how do you convert your leads into clients? Do you, send them a DocuSign link while you're on the phone with them and have them click on it and execute a contract and a medical authorization while they're talking to you, so it's instant conversion? Do you send someone out to sign them live because they're in the hospital? What are the methods that you're using? And you can include those methods in the software so that you know which methods are the most effective for which type of case. And then something that a lot of people don't think about is remarketing. And this is what I use as my counter argument when attorneys tell me, I don't want to put all my rejected leads into my system. It clogs it up. I'm going to run out of room. You're never going to run out of room. This is money that you can potentially make without even realizing it. Mining your database allows you to monetize leads that maybe weren't qualified for, say, a Social Security disability case, but later are qualified for, you know, a pharmaceutical or medical device mass tort litigation, and you can, you know, joint venture that with someone that you know that handles those types of cases, and you basically will make money off of a rejected lead. And so you want to have the ability to remarket to everyone who contacts you, because ethically you're able to, and having all of that data in your system allows you to really measure more effectively what your return on investment is. It shows, you know, accepted leads, rejected leads, and so on. And then your universal merge documents and forms, sign-up paperwork, authorizations, employment authorizations, ordering tax records, whatever you need to be able to work up your files, and then your employment contract. Those are really the three basic areas where you would like for those forms to be coded into your system such that they'll pull the data in that you've already entered about the client, insert it into the spots on the forms, and then can either email it digitally or print it out and send it in the mail to the potential client. It makes that process a lot more seamless rather than having to go to search and find where's the paperwork for this case type and copy and paste and type in. It happens instantly. So here's sort of a sample new case intake hard copy outline that I have worked on with a firm. And so this kind of walks you through the process of what can happen and what different sort of like funnels or segments each lead can go into. So you assign the call to a particular person who will then attempt the call. If they reach the person, then they'll continue on down into the intake process. If they don't, then they have what I spoke about earlier, the P&C lead nurturing, where they'll send an email, a call, an email, and a call. And all of that can be completely automated. Once the attorney like writes and signs off on what language they want to go in those emails, you can program it into your system and just hit send P&C email 1 as soon as you hang up after leaving a voicemail. And so that really cuts down on the time that you would spend drafting an email to each person and the grammatical errors that may come therewith just from human error. Once you go through the intake, I like it when my staff will rate the lead so that I know if I have a, you know, like a 3 that's like maybe a case, maybe not, or I have a 10 that's like a catastrophic personal injury or wrongful death case, I would like to know the difference because it helps me to prioritize my follow-up and how quickly I'll respond to them. Once you speak to the lead, rate the lead, and then you either tee it up for an attorney or the attorney allows you to qualify yourself, it will either qualify, put you in a position where you need more information, like a death certificate, a denial letter, something like this. It'll need an attorney call. Some leads call in and they say, I won't talk to anyone unless it's an attorney. You try to talk them out of it, but can't do that with everyone. You will refer the case out because it's not a matter type that you handle, or you will reject it, and then the system can automatically send out both a rejection email and put it in a queue for, we would send out our rejection letters every Friday for like the whole firm. And so all of that's very important, and these are the types of systems that you can automate in order to make your business run more efficiently. As part of that, and I know it's very challenging, communication really matters, like real live communication, or at least on the phone communication with the different members of your firm that are involved in this process. I know it's hard being busy, traveling, and maybe even having multiple office locations, but it is so important. Before the meeting, you'll want to run reports out of your case management software that you will use to review the items that are being covered in that meeting. And I just gave examples here of different meetings that I've had that I found to be very valuable. And then as a result of the thoughts and actions that are conveyed in these meetings, you will make notes for each client in the CMS of what is next to do, what you went over in the meeting, any issues. You can create tasks or to-dos for certain staff members in the CMS, and you can assess the return on investment in an ongoing basis by having meetings like this and relay the same as a liaison with your marketing vendors. So now we have reached our first poll question. So does your law firm have a procedure manual?
Yes, if you could read the options too, Stacey, that would be great.
Sure. Yes, one is yes, it is printed out and lives in a 3-ring binder. 2, what is a procedure manual? 3, we have checklists for certain tasks. 4, we have an internal portal with links to download various items, videos, and more. And 5, no.
Okay, great. So if everyone can please go ahead and cast your votes. I'll be closing the polls here in just a moment. Okay, it looks like majority has voted. I'm going to close and share our results. Okay, so the results are 19% said yes, it is printed out and lives in a 3-ring binder. 1% said, what is a procedure manual? 34% said we have checklists for certain tasks. And 9% said we have an internal portal with links to download items. And then our majority, which is 38%, said no, no procedure manual. So I'll go ahead and hide those results.
And so this is a very big area of opportunity, and it shows that, as I see with most firms that I work with, it is very hard and oftentimes, and rightly so, not the top priority for people who are running a law firm to sit down and go through each process and try to systemize it and then figure out how to integrate their technology with that system. But it's important, and I'll tell you why. The initial cost of your time and money that are being devoted to the development of these systems will have long-term financial benefits for your business. Your employees will do better work because they know exactly what's expected of them. They're using qualification questions that you've pre-approved. They're using forms that the attorneys have pre-approved. It's going to be consistent. It's going to be correct. And so you're going to be happier and ultimately have your cases move along faster, as well as less staff turnover. But that only really happens if you develop the systems and then you train everyone. And if you're tweeting live, remember to use #EfficientLawFirm so we can all find each other's tweets in the future. So training your employees often begins and ends, if it happens at all, at the beginning when someone's hired. They get kind of like a little bit of onboarding. But there's so much that can be learned about your business if you continue training on an ongoing basis, because not only does software evolve, and so new features come about, as we talked about earlier, the credit card processing feature that MyCase has now, new features come out all the time and updates to software come out all the time, and so it's good to continue to train, but also it identifies weak spots in your business where you could figure out if there's a particular staff member that needs to be trained on a certain job function, or if you are missing a coded form for something that would make things run a little bit more smoothly. So why train? It helps you if you perform a training needs assessment. And so some of these are just questions that you might ask yourself, and answers that are really the reasons why you would train in order to counter the problems that are identified. So you perform a training needs assessment. You do not provide training if it is unclear in any way why you're doing it. You identify the performance gap, which is between where your employees are now, what they're able to do now, and what tools they use to accomplish it, and what you need them to be able to do in order to accomplish the goals that you've set forth in your needs assessment. So, for example, on this list, do you receive customer complaints? Everyone has clients that are unhappy sometimes. It allows you the opportunity to improve your customer service, which is always important in what we do. We're in a professional services industry, and we want to provide superior service to our clients, not only so that we meet our ethical duties, but also so that they're happy and they have a good experience with us and they recommend us to other people. So I say train first, train last, and train always. It's one of my own sayings. I say train first because that is the first thing that should happen when any new employee kind of hits the door, is that they need to be trained on what their job duties are, how they accomplish them, what software you use, who they're going to work with, what those people like and don't like. Train last refers to, you have an employee that's not necessarily meeting exactly what your expectations were for his or her position. Training and retraining is sort of a last resort to go to before you decide to part ways, because sometimes parting ways and bringing on another employee is just as, if not more, disruptive than keeping on someone who just needs a little bit of help. And then train always is my ongoing training that I think all law firms should have in order to continually improve upon the systems they've developed. In order to assess what you need to do, you will identify what your law firm's needs are. And I'll give you some examples. Potential needs can include, we need consistent email organization and retention across all of our employees, right? How does everybody file the case-related emails that they send and receive? And we want to integrate our accounting software with our case management software so we can cut checks directly upon request through the tech. So those are two needs. And then you'll definitely want to identify what are management's expectations of what the training is going to accomplish and how quickly that's going to be accomplished, because if you don't meet those expectations, they will consider your training to be a failure. How will training move us closer to meeting those expectations? So in order to do that, you really want to develop learning objectives and use those objectives as sort of a North Star that guides you and towards all aspects of your training. You want to point every aspect of your training toward those learning objectives and ask if this particular aspect of training is going to accomplish one of those or move you closer toward accomplishing one of your learning objectives. What will the training require logistically? Sort of training materials, trainer, time, money, exactly what's going to be required, how you're going to organize it. And then, will the training actually improve your employees' performance? We're hoping yes. And how will we measure it? If I'm a business owner, which I am now, I want quantifiable business results that show me that the money and time I invested in this training was worth it. So you need to know how you're going to do that and account to your bosses. And then how do we continue to cultivate ongoing assessment of like a corporate culture that wants to be educated and wants to continue to improve your business, because your staff are the ones on the front line that are going to be engaging in these systems every day. And so you want to cultivate a culture where they feel comfortable to come to their, office administrator or HR person or head paralegal, whoever's the designated point of contact with issues as they come up in real time, so you can keep things humming. In addition to your systems, your documents, and the like, a lot of what we've already talked about is that training also preserves intangible assets. Your business will have a lot of value that is intangible, right? We think of the biggest value in our law firms being our cases and our clients, and that sort of substantive information. But there's institutional knowledge that employees have that is sometimes, and in some cases, more valuable. And so knowledge management and preservation just does extend beyond client and case specific information. It's important to remember that and to incorporate some of that into your training so that those items can continue to be learned. In order for employees to be able to work as seamlessly as possible, you want to make sure that the tools they need to work are accessible. Some firms will say, my firm is established, it's 50 years old, I make money, I'm successful, why should I change? What do I need a new technology for? And I counter that with, one, better quality representation for your clients. We do better by our clients when we use technology that makes our practice even better than it already has been. Two, yes, you make money, but you could potentially make a lot more money. Three, there's less interruption. And so we do right by our clients, by our own pockets, and by our staff. And so, we have ethical responsibilities to do a good job and to do the best job possible that we can for our clients. And sometimes new technology makes our representation more cost efficient, more effective, and of a better quality than we could previously provide for our clients. We want to stay profitable. Our businesses are in greater competition than ever. Young lawyers coming out of school can't get a job and they start their own firms, and they're going to come out sleek, low overhead, high tech, and very hungry. And so just because you have a 50-year-old successful practice doesn't mean that someone like that can't come in and eclipse you really easily, because their overhead expenditures are small to non-existent. So you just have to be mindful of the changes in the economic atmosphere surrounding the legal industry. And just in general, legal practice has become more reliant on technology across a variety of different functions. So in making work more accessible, what are some practical considerations? Accessibility. Who do you want to be able to access email and case-related information on their mobile devices? And that's really a more complicated question and answer than you think it is. If you have hourly employees and they're able to access their email outside of work, is that going to push them over 40 hours a week? Are you going to wind up paying overtime? Will their mobile device be accessed by other people because it's not a firm-owned piece of technology? And will they be able to look at sensitive information? Same with remote access. And then most importantly, I would say, to cloud or not to cloud. It's a big question right now for attorneys. My entire business lives in the cloud, so I'm maybe coming at it a little biased, but I've definitely worked both in environments with a actual hard server on site and with most of the information stored in the cloud. So there can be different types of clouds, a public or a private. Public being shared and hosted externally by a third-party vendor, and private is dedicated just for your law firm, or it can be some sort of hybrid of both for different functions. And most of the software that I use for my business is SaaS, Software as a Service, and that's complete software offering that lives in the cloud. And all of my business is on Software as a Service, and we are actually moving offices on Friday across town. And all I'm doing is picking up a few things, moving to a new office, plugging it in, and all of my information is right where I left it because it's all in the cloud. And I find that to be incredibly helpful for me. So here are some advantages of cloud computing: less expensive, more flexible, easy to update, less operational issues. It makes your business more scalable. And I would say disaster recovery is something people don't think about a lot. I live in Texas, and we have a lot of hurricanes and a lot of rising water issues, a lot of flooding here, y'all may have seen on the news. And so for us, if I'm on the first floor of my building and I have a dedicated server in my office that stores all of my information and it's not backed up anywhere else, if my office floods, it's gone. But if it's stored in a physical server and then backed up to the cloud, I have my cloud backup and I'm up and going the next day. If it's in the cloud to begin with and backed up in a secondary cloud, you're good. And so those are just things that you have to think about, like it or not. Is my building going to burn down? If it does, what happens? Where are all of my client retainer agreements? Do I have them scanned in, or are they only in paper copy form? And what does that mean for me if they go away in a fire? So considerations, they're not really negatives, more just things that I think you should consider when deciding to move to the cloud. They're ethical considerations of being a competent attorney, safeguarding client data, different things like that. Will my service be interrupted? Because if you entrust your data to a cloud that someone else manages, there's the potential that your service will be interrupted. So I would ask that provider, what's your uptime? Are you, 99% up? And if you have downtime, how long is it? What's happened before? And what do you do for me in the interim? Because I'm not able to run my business at all. So I would look into service interruption, security, as we talked about, and then who owns the data, right? If you're storing your data on someone else's cloud or on a shared cloud, do you own it? Do they own it? You really want to own it. And then I put work-life balance on here just because I think it's always important to discuss. Giving employees, including attorneys, access to everything in the cloud all the time can really upset the work-life balance, because it can create expectations for some of your hardest working people, some of your paralegals, that now that they can access the information at home, that they should be working in the evening, and they're on salaries, they don't really make more money, and then they become less happy with their job, and that's not good. So now we're at our second poll. When do you train your employees? 1, we have a formalized staff onboarding process, and our employees are trained when they join the firm. 2, we train new employees only and do not train existing staff. 3, we offer quarterly training on our case management software. 4, if an employee brings an issue to our attention, we train as needed in real time. 5, we never train anyone.
I'm curious to see these results. Okay, so the votes are coming in. If everyone can please go ahead and wrap up your vote, and I will close the polls. Here goes. And our results are in. So 36%, that's our majority. We have a formal process. They're trained when they join. 18% said they train new employees only and don't train existing staff. 5% say they offer quarterly training on case management software. 31% says if an employee brings an issue to their attention, then they'll train. And 10% never trains anyone. So 36% have a formal process. Is that pretty surprising to you?
I think that it's not, and some of the points to ponder kind of go beyond what I asked. Do you use an in-house trainer or an out-of-house trainer? Who does the training? Who conducts the onboarding process, and is that person the best person to do it? Do people give any feedback about the training that they receive, so that if that person's the most effective trainer, or if that they're getting all of the information that they need in the onboarding process to do their job? And is all of the training done in one place with one set of materials, as we spoke about before? So I'm happy to know that people onboard their staff, but please know that as they do their job, more questions will come up, and you'll have smart people working for you that will really have valuable insight as the workers on the front lines to be able to help you continue to make your business run more efficiently and grow. So building your best law firm, now we are at ongoing assessment. So not only will the needs of your firm change over time, you can add a practice group, you can add another partner, you'll have a different managing partner, you'll need more intake staff because you're spending more money on marketing. The technology and the staff members that you use to accomplish your business goals also change. So you'll have, new people coming in at different positions, or someone leaves and they're replaced. You have your technology evolve over time. And so an ongoing assessment of sort of what your key business functions are will help your law firm stay on track and continue to make money for you. I say periodically audit your systems. For me, I like quarterly. And one of those, I really like to be someone that goes in and actually audits the case management software to look for duplicates, if they're duplicate providers, duplicate doctors, duplicate clients, if things are entered more than one time, misspellings, things like that. Someone should be responsible for doing that a couple of times a year, or else you're going to get 3 years in and look and have all this polluted data and be very sad, and your reporting will be affected by it. So definitely assess how your training is going, as we've discussed. You can assess each system, not each system every quarter, but maybe you'll do your intake in first quarter, and then the second quarter you'll do, ordering medical records. Your third quarter you'll do all of the finances, the settlements, the cutting checks for expenses, things like that. How's the level of productivity? Is it improving with the addition of the systemization, or are there new issues that are coming up? The workflow, and then how happy are your people? It's something that I think lawyers feel like my people are happy, I treat them well, and it's not something I need to ask questions about on an ongoing basis. When I go into audit, I ask those difficult questions under the condition of anonymity, and you would be surprised. Every single person that I talk to at every single law firm has something to say about their job or the environment in which they work that, while may be a complaint or a negative, can be really turned into something positive for the firm. And so I think that if there's a way to evaluate employee satisfaction and get true and honest feedback, that can be extremely invaluable to your business. And then after you get the information, analyze it, figure out where your needs are. You'll do another needs assessment, create your game plan. How long is it going to take you to implement the changes? And then retrain everyone on the changes. You kind of go back through the steps that we've already talked about again. And just generally, any business that wants to be successful and wants to keep its staff happy should continually improve and adjust the way that it does business, and educate your people. The more educated that an employee feels on these systems, technology, and processes that they use, the more invested they're going to be in the success of your business. It makes them a more invaluable employee. It gives them an added skill set. It makes them feel good about their job. And so the findings from your evaluations need to be used to also change the way the law firm owners think about the objectives of their business, which is really interesting and sometimes hard. Now we're at our third poll. So what is the top complaint of law firm owners? 1, I cannot measure the return on investment of my marketing expenditures. 2, I don't know what my staff members' jobs duties are. I'm not really sure what they do. 3, I don't have time to fill in the blank, which is usually sit down and write out my procedures. 4, I can't find or retrain good people to work for me. Why can't I find a good paralegal to support this particular practice group? It's driving me crazy. 5, I know we need to make changes, but I don't know where to start.
Okay, great. This is our last poll. If everyone can please go ahead and vote. And I will be closing the polls. Here goes. Okay, and the results are in. What is the top complaint of law firm owners? 16% say they can't measure the return on investment for their marketing. 4%, I don't know what my staff members' job duties are. And then 38%, so that's our majority, say they don't have time to, and then fill in the blank. 12%, I can't find or retain good people to work for me. And then 29% say, I know we need to make changes, just don't know where to start.
So this is kind of a trick question because all 5 of these are the top complaints of law firm owners that I meet with. I would say almost every single owner tells me, number 1, that they're just not really sure what the return is on the money that they spend on the various marketing campaigns that they run. But the finding good people is also challenging. But the underlying issue for all of it is that law firm owners, firm administrators, chief operating officers don't have time to really learn how to accomplish any of these other tasks. So I feel you. It is hard to run your own business. So now we'll close out with a little bit of talk about business development, and I want to be sure and be clear that business development and marketing are often used interchangeably, but they're really very different. They support each other and interact with each other, and at most small to medium-sized firms, there's really one person that's responsible for both of them, so that it makes sense that they would be confused. But they're two different things. Marketing, for example, some of the job duties would be design a website, produce content, develop a logo, and design proposals for business development to use. Whereas the business development person has the actual relationship with the potential client. The client pays for a relationship with its lawyer, not necessarily with someone who makes brochures. And so a lot of times the lawyers really do have to be the person that attends networking events, attends social engagements with prospects, lunches, sporting events, happy hours, things like that. So what is business development? Make connections with referral sources and potential clients. And while that sounds very broad and daunting, this is really anyone. Anyone that you interact with in life is a potential referral source. Anyone from your travel agent to your banker to your kid's teacher. You know, it's okay to make people aware of what it is that you do, not always in an effort to solicit business, but just to talk about yourself as a way to connect with people, and then they'll know that they can turn to you should they need your services. Identifying prospects in new areas of business. Some people like to work with their Chamber of Commerce. I have had a lot of success with industry-specific professional associations, say that I want to target people in the medical profession. I've done sponsorships and trade show booths at the Society for Dermatologists annual meeting. And, you meet a bunch of dermatologists. They come by to pick up your free stuff, and then you have a built-in list of people that have given you their card. So not every professional association will accept lawyer money, but a lot will. And you have the rest of the list there. This is something that you should say to yourself, especially if you're not like me and a total extrovert, and maybe you're a little shy and you don't love doing business development. Anyone can do it. I can find potential clients and or referral sources by any of these 6 things, and I'll focus on 2. The being active in my community. I think that's very important. I like to give of my time. I like for my children to see me be involved in the community and give of myself. It's important to me. It's important that the people who work for me see me do that, and that they get to do that too as part of their employment with me. It's great for bonding. It's great passive public relations, as well as it's just nice to do good things in the world. Work at a local food bank. Close your office for half a day and go work at a local food bank with everybody in your office. Have the people in your office that want to do a fun run. There's also indistracted driving is a big movement that I got involved with through American Association for Justice, and I really enjoyed it very much. There are different groups like that, and they provide all of the public relations and educational materials that you need in order to implement their program. And while I'm not talking about digital marketing today, because that's a whole other conversation, I would encourage you, when you do things like that, to take pictures to use on social media. The other one that I want to focus on is the cultivating existing relationships. People don't think about that, but it is very important to maintain and or increase the stream of business that you receive from existing sources. The people that you've made money with and that you've had good times with and positive relationships with, you want to keep them happy and keep them sending business your way. You also want to market to other law firms. Your point of contact will be different depending upon the size and type of firm. You want to know who are the decision makers and who are the people that influence those decision makers, because it's very often not the partners or even the lawyers that make some of these decisions. Speaking engagements, get published, promote your publications, and then utilize your marketing department to help you with direct mail, email, case studies, testimonials, and public relations. And I want to leave time for questions. So here's how you will contact me, and now I will let Stephanie read me any questions that you guys have come up with.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Stacey. Those were some awesome tips. For those of you who have to leave us now, please take note of 3 things. When you close your webinar, a quick 5-question survey will pop up. So all it takes is answering those questions, and you'll be entered to win an Apple TV. So it's definitely worth it. If you are a Florida Bar member, note CLE course number 2391R to self-report your CLE from today. You will receive an email tomorrow with a link to the blog. A lot of people did ask about this. You'll find the slides and the webinar recording, and you'll also find out the Apple TV winner. So now for some of those questions, and they're actually coming in, some more coming in right now. Okay, Bob asks, I need help with tracking referral sources. Any ideas?
So your last result is always asking the caller, how did you find us? Because they're going to say the internet, and then that's really sort of meaningless because that can be organic, paid, a directory listing, your website. It could be anything. And so what you want to do, if possible, is have your inbound form submissions from your website relay the method with which the person entered the site. There is, like, if you have a WordPress site, there's an add-in that you can add, a little widget that will add to the form submission whether or not it was from, Google paid search or Bing Yahoo paid search, and what page the person entered on and what page they submitted the form. You can use tracking phone numbers, tracking emails, call recording, online call tracking and recording. Things like that are really good at helping you figure out what the referral sources are. And then there should be, if you can add a custom field to your case management software that allows you to input a pick list where you could list what all of the potential referral sources would be, so that you're not having people type different stuff in each time. That's ideal.
Okay, great. The questions are now pouring in. Here's another good one. At what point am I spending too much time on my marketing versus focusing on practicing law and being an attorney? What is the balance for the working day lawyer? I don't have time to learn about SEO, search engine optimization.
So that's a very good question, especially when, I own my own business now, and so I understand it even more than I did when I was working for other people. I think that you need to spend as much time on marketing as is required for you to be able to turn a profit with your business. If you have the ability to hire associates to help you with the workup of your files that you can then take on when they get into litigation and just kind of oversee when they're in the pre-lit phases, that's really helpful. But certain things that are highly technical, like paid search advertising and search engine optimization, it does pay to outsource them. There are some people whose entire business is media relations and public relations just for attorneys, and sometimes just in specific areas of practice. So finding the right vendors that you can develop a relationship with and trust with your money will save you money and time in your actual practice. So I don't know percentage-wise what the best balance is, and it probably varies from practice to practice. But I would say that as the person who's in charge of making sure the firm makes money, that is one of your obligations to both yourself and to the people that work for you. And so you need to invest enough time so that your docket case volume is significant enough and has an estimated potential revenue high enough in order for you to have a profitable year.
Okay, great. Any ideas on automating the intake procedure?
Yes. So I talked about the decision tree. I think the most important part of the intake process to automate is the qualification. So say it's a mass tort and it's Actos bladder cancer as a project that I worked on. The first question is, did you take Actos? Yes or no? If the person says no, the conversation ends. If they say yes, the next question is, did you develop bladder cancer while you were on the medication or within X amount of time thereafter? Yes or no? If they never developed bladder cancer, the conversation ends there. If they did develop bladder cancer, then you want to know some other comorbidities and, did they smoke? Did they work in a certain kind of industrial environment? There may be other questions that your attorneys want you to ask. And then you'll know if the person is worth sending a contract to or not. And to be able to boil that down to 5 or 6 questions that are in the system that someone clicks yes and it takes them to the next question, or no and it says now you reject the caller, that saves so much time. And hopefully will have you not signing up unqualified leads and getting them in the door and wasting money on them. So that's, in my opinion, that's the most important part of the intake process, to systemize, if not automate, as well as the forms that you're going to use to accomplish the conversion of the leads into customers.
Okay, great. Okay, next question. We have this actually quite commonly on several webinars. And the question is, our boss, the attorney, is old school. How can we get him to try new technology?
Oh, I have lived that myself. The first firm that I worked for, and I worked there even before I went to law school. So I was I've done everything from the filing to being a legal assistant to paralegal work to then ultimately litigating. So I had been at all different phases in this firm. The firm had been around for 50 years, makes a lot of money, and they think, our systems work. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? Yes, I agree with that to an extent. But as I touched on earlier, you will not remain competitive in your market space locally or nationally if you do not continue to evolve with your industry. That is the biggest thing that someone who's old school should be afraid of, is becoming obsolete. Your legal skills aren't obsolete, right? But the ability of clients to find you and hire you has totally changed in the last 10 or 15 years with the internet. And your ability to represent them in a way that is meaningful to them. Some clients want a little bit more interaction. Some clients want to be able to have real-time updates. They want to be able to email you. A lot of these things were not factors in representation 15 years ago. That you don't want to become a dinosaur. You don't want to become obsolete. You also want to have happy staff members. And if you have people that work for you that really embrace technology and want to learn it, let them. Let them spearhead the efforts. They are the ones that are on the front lines doing the majority of the work. Empower them to research case management software or accounting software or whatever it is that might be helpful. Document management software is, I'm asked, probably the most commonly about. And let them bring to you a list of options and present to you, what the initial cost is and why it's going to help benefit your business.
Okay, great. Well, this is an interesting follow-up question. So she writes, I am a new, older attorney with previous business and legal experience. I don't have a staff currently. It's just me. What type of marketing is best for my small firm, since I probably can't handle a huge influx of calls right now? So I think just asking, like, what one thing could I kind of start out with?
So I would make sure that you have a website that looks professional and is easy to find. When someone looks for you by name, your entity by name, and hopefully for your particular practice areas in your locale, but that's secondary. That's more of a search engine optimization, which may be more of a spin than you're able to do. I say that because a lot of your business will come on referral in the beginning when you're first starting your law firm on your own, and people will go to the internet to look to see what information is out there about you. And so it serves to be a point of verification, kind of boost your credibility with someone that may or may not want to hire you, for you to have a website that looks like you're able to spend the money on it to make it look nice. In MyCase is wonderful. They offer you a low-cost alternative for that, which is great. I would also say that there are a lot of online legal directories, digital legal directories, and many of them are free to claim and build out your profile. And so claiming those and building those out, those are PageRank 7, 8, and 9 sites They're very regarded as very highly credible by Google, and they will appear organically on the first 2 pages of search results for your name, whether you like it or not. So as long as they're there, let them be there in a meaningful way, and put all of your information into them and have a link to your website. Those are the first 2 basics, I would say, that I recommend anyone start with who is forming a new entity or starting their own practice.
Okay, great. And the last question that we have time for would be, do you recommend using a monthly subscription service of some kind for leads?
Wow, that's a tough question to end on.
Oh, sorry.
No, not for you. I think that there are, depending on the service, there are ethical issues associated with the use of lead generation companies. I would want to know how they are generating the leads, and what they're expecting in return for the leads. And if you're going to be able to return a lead, say you are guaranteed 30 leads a month and 29 of them wind up not qualified, do you get to return those 29 and get up to 30 that are qualified? Is it 30 qualified leads, or is it just 30 phone calls? Anybody can get you 30 phone calls, but you don't want 30 phone calls. You want 30 qualified phone calls that are going to be clients you want to take and help you make money. But there are some ethical considerations to look into how these services acquire the potential clients, because you're the one ultimately signing the contract with them. You just want to make sure that it meets with the ethical rules of your jurisdiction in which you're practicing.
Yeah, that's a good answer. Yeah. Okay, well, we have run out of time, Stacey. Thank you to you, and thank you for everyone who has joined us today. We will be posting this on our blog, and we'll send an email to everyone with a link to the recap and the slides and the recording. So you'll be getting that information tomorrow, and hopefully you'll join us for our webinar next month. Thank you, Stacey, so much for presenting for us today.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, bye-bye, everyone.